Welcome to All Things Moore County, Moore County's weekly radio show highlighting the many facets of the Sandhills. That includes real estate, lifestyle, community and neighborhoods. And now from 4 Properties, here's your host, Bill Sahadi.
Good morning. Welcome to the talk show, All Things Moore County. Dorothy, we're in the beginning of December.
Yes.
And guess what we're going to be doing the next couple of weeks, hopefully?
Talking about December stuff?
Yeah, December stuff.
Christmas stuff?
Yeah, I think so. The weather finally turned truly cold this week.
Yes.
And today we're going to be, we've got a couple of different guests who are going to be on. The first part of the show, we're going to be speaking all about the Sandhills Women's Exchange in Pinehurst. And in the second part of the show, we're going to be speaking with Greta Zanstra, who is the executive director, and she runs the Encore Theater in Southern Pine. She's got some things to talk about regarding an upcoming Christmas show.
Oh, nice.
But the Sandhills Women's Exchange, for those who maybe don't know it, I can promise you they know the building. It's one of the most iconic buildings in Pinehurst. It's situated right next to the golf facility at Pinehurst Country Club. People who are driving on Highway 2 can look to your left and they see this gorgeous, almost Rockwellian type cabin. And people just think it's cute, it's quaint. And they've heard of it, maybe, and if they have heard of it, they might not know what the Sandhills Women's Exchange does, what its purpose is. And I remember in 1979, the very first time I came here, I drove by it. I was parking my car over at the Pinehurst Country Club to play golf, and I think somehow the way the roads were set up, I was able to cut around it. And I looked over and I said, you know, in New Jersey, where I came from, Pennsylvania, there was nothing like this. And there's a history to the Women's Exchange, and we're being joined today by the president of the exchange, BARB SUMMERS, and the vice president, BARBARA KEATIng, to sort of give us a soup-to-nuts overview about what the Sandhills Women's Exchange does and what's in store the rest of this month and into next year. So I want to welcome both of you. And I didn't realize that the Sandhills Women's Exchange was started way back in 1922. I think that was the year I graduated college. And give us a little background about the exchange, because that building is, it's as indigenous to Pinehurst as just about, it's right across from the Village Chapel, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct, it is,
Yeah.
Bill. It's across from the Village Chapel, and of course where it is now was not where it originally was. It was served as the cabin itself was a part of the cook's kitchen for out at Ray's Grist Mill, which is a couple miles away. And when Mr. Tufts came to Pinehurst, and he found the little cabin, he fell in love with it, and so he had his eye on it and wanted to move it. By that point in time, it had become the cook's kitchen for the Mackenzie family, which is well known here in the community. So he said, how about I take the cabin and move it to where I would like to put it, and he then rebuilt them a new cook's kitchen. So log by log, they moved it to our present location, which, of course, thinking back in 1895, that would have been quite a little feat. It wouldn't be like putting it on a flatbed now and moving it.
It was moved in 1895? So when it was moved, the purpose of that building at the time was what?
Well, he just fell in love with the charm of it, but he initially also sort of treated it as a museum.
Okay.
But then also he wanted it to be protected, looked over.
Yeah.
So he had, at that time, a gentleman lived there, and he kept an eye on it, and that was his home.
Oh.
And then as Mr. Tufts would bring friends into town, he would always take them. He had to show them his cabin and the museum part of it. And at the time, also, that was known as Deer Park. So there were a lot of deer that roamed the area. So that was the other side of it, that he made sure the deer were protected and fed and taken care of and that. So he just seemed to fall in love with the whole idea of the cabin itself. And that's how it came to be there. And, of course, the cabin itself is circa 1810.
Oh, I did not know that.
Well, a lot of people don't, but it is.
I've had lunch there. I've been in the cabin. Honestly, when I walk in, I felt like I was 6'8".
Yeah.
It's I guess way back in that day, people were shorter, and when you walk in, even I think you have to put your head down to get through some of the doors.
Yes.
But it's been it's gone through some restoration as well over the years.
It has. After Mrs. Tuff nudged Mr. Tufts to have it given to the Women's Exchange, then they needed, beyond the museum part, they needed a place to be able to have basically what is now our gift shop.
Okay.
So money was donated, and what is the gift shop was added to and built on at that point in time. And that's where, of course, women of the community who were looking for a way to have some extra spending money, they would bring baked goods, canned goods, quilts, and that's where they would be sold. So for a long time, that was the main part, was the museum and then the gift shop, and that was how it got started. Now, our exchange was started in 1922,
Right.
and we will be, God willing, celebrating our 100-year
100th
anniversary
next
in
year.
2022,
Right.
which we're
2
very
years.
excited about, and pleased. That's quite a statement for all that have come before us and those that will come after us.
So, what's the mission of the exchange? It's a gift shop.
It is, and our mission is to help others help themselves. And so many of this was like maybe women from farms, and that came in and they brought in, like, say, a quilt. That was their expertise, and they would bring it in, and then they would sell it, and then they would make some monies back for that to help supplement their income.
Right.
Some of these women might be women who were on their own, had children, maybe at times, as we all know, in the farming world, everything wasn't always perfect for them. So
right.
that was just how that mission started. So we felt that we have continued to keep that on, and that's why today we still have many artisans that are a part of that gift shop.
Are the artisans North Carolinian artisans? Are they basically local artisans?
Pretty much all of them are. Now, we do have one gal who is in Illinois, and she has a specialty, cute little pin called Wild Women Pins, and so we take those from her and we sell those. But we learned about her through a federation of which we are also a part of, and that's a group of all the other exchanges that are still in existence. And when you go to an annual meeting, a lot of them bring their wares, and that's how we found out about this one gal. But primarily, everybody is local, Moore County.
It is, and when we put an ad in the pilot, as we do each week when we advertise the show, and I had to go back and check the spelling because I didn't want to make a mistake.
Right.
It's woman's, not it's WOMANS, not ENS.
Correct.
Why is that?
And it's a singular because, again, it was the individual woman who would participate and founded and help, was a part of the exchange. So we've continued to be known as that.
So you're a nonprofit organization?
We are. We're a 501c3.
So the proceeds that you raise, how do you get the monies to people in need?
Well, as far as through the artisan side of it, the artisans, out of what they sell, they get 60% commission, and then the cabin retains the other 40%. And of course, from that 40%, many times, because we're absorbing the cost of the bags and the tissue paper and all of the other things that would go along with having a gift shop. Now, we have not gotten to the point where we're able to give back to the community, say a scholarship or something of that nature.
Right.
And part of that is just because when you have an 1810 cabin, and then you have our cabin cafe, which was opened in 1955,
right,
you have a lot of expenses
right.
and maintenance and
Right.
that. So, but our goal is to do that. But we also feel that we do give back in the community in many ways, just because of that we're keeping a part of history, and we teach that history as people come through the exchange.
You know, I think of when I'm driving through the village, I think of the Women's Exchange as one of those iconic buildings, not unlike driving through Southern Pines and passing the Shaw House.
Correct.
Same thing.
Correct.
It's been very well preserved. Do you own the building?
We do. That's all been gifted in the land to us, so we do have complete ownership of it. We also are a part of the historic district of Pinehurst. So, of course, that has many good features to it. But then as we want to do things, we have to always go through them to get approval if we're doing any structural changes. And we're also a part of preservation covenants of North Carolina. And they also protect us because they protect the outside as far, again, if we want to do something or if somebody's thinking about maybe wanting to encroach into our area, they protect us because we do sit in a very valuable piece of real estate.
Yeah, you
in
really do.
Pinehurst.
How much land do you have with the
We have
cabin?
just about an acre there.
Do you really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would say that's pretty valuable land.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, you are surrounded by very expensive real estate.
We are.
It reminds me of the building in Atlantic City before they put all the casinos up. There was this little house stuck between these two skyscrapers that were going up, and the woman who owned the house would not sell it. I don't know if you remember, but and they were offering millions of dollars for this little tear-down house, and she wouldn't sell. It's sort of like you're positioned right around the number 2 golf course and some beautiful residential homes.
We are. And we have a good working relationship with the resort.
I'm sure.
And there's, since you've driven by, you probably have seen there's 2 ponds to the one side of the cabin, and that's our biggest always concern, especially when we've had hurricanes come through and even the recent heavy storms that we had a few weeks back, because those move from one pond to the other, and then where do they move to? They move towards the cabin. And back in 2015, when one of the hurricanes came through, we did have flooding in the cabin, and it delayed our opening by about 6 weeks. And of course, things like that cost money, and it kept us from being able to open the doors for a while.
Before I pivot, I want to speak with Barbara Keating, who's the vice president. But I want to ask you a quick question. So, how did you get involved with the exchange?
I got involved initially through my garden club, my Loblolly Garden Club. We do all the decorating outside, like for the holidays, and we tend to the gardens. And so as I started to come more to the cabin with that and got to know some of the people inside, then I was actually asked to take a board position, which then was to schedule the volunteer cashiers. And then over these past 3 years, I've served as co-president and now president of the board.
How long have you been in Moore County? You came here from Ohio?
Came in 2002 to Moore County, but actually came from Virginia Beach to here.
Okay, so now you're you get to oversee part of a very special piece of property in Vintage Pinehurst.
Yeah, absolutely, and I'm very proud of that.
Yeah. Barb Keating, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Good, thank you.
I remember being there maybe 2005, 2006, and one of my clients actually was a volunteer there, and they had me over for lunch, and I walked in, and that's when I felt like I was 6'8". Do you have a membership that you offer membership? How does that work? Because you have a lot of people who come through those doors.
Yes, we do. We but we invite people to become members. That helps us to support the cabin besides the revenues that we get from the dining room or from the gift shop. So you can just ask for an application. It's $35 to be a member, and you get on our website.
Okay.
And you'll get emails and all the information of different things that are going to be happening at the Women's Exchange throughout the year.
And every event that you set up is with the idea of trying to raise money. So serving lunch, you serve lunch?
Yes.
Breakfast? No.
Well, we're starting on Saturdays. I work on Saturdays, or volunteer, I should say, as a waitress. And Katrina, our chef, who's absolutely wonderful, she has been starting out with omelet and some toast and bacon or sausage. And we have seen some interest in that. But basically our hours are for the dining room from 11 to 2, where we serve delicious, all homemade meals.
So my guess is that the food portion of the business is at best a break-even proposition. because serving food and the margins are really more in the sale of some of the artisan products, or no?
Well, no, we've started
Oh,
to
good.
exceed those expectations,
Oh,
and then a
good.
part of that has to do, like Barb mentioning, our chef Katrina and that, because she's fabulous, has a wonderful way about her
Well-known,
and that. So many times, and it's really kind of helps us because we're a little unique in the fact that there's only about 3 exchanges that have both a gift shop and some type of eating
Right.
establishment. So we like it because we think a lot of times the Cabin Cafe brings the people in for lunch and then they mosey around the gift shop, or they might come in to shop and they don't know that we have a lunchroom, and so say, well, go ahead and stay. So I think we're finding that it's
Complements
become,
one
yes,
another.
They do.
You've got an event, a couple of events coming up. The 13th of December, you've got a tea time at the cabin.
That's correct.
I know Victoria Atkins from Cola Bank. She's a very nice lady. She's sponsoring the event, and you have 2 seatings.
Yes, we do. I have to say, right now, the afternoon seating is sold out. We do have some spots.
I think as of the close of business yesterday, I have one spot left for the morning, and then we will have sold out both seatings for that.
Do you get a lot of traffic at the December, the holiday time period, more so than the rest of the year?
I know. I would have to say, I think it's evenly distributed of foot traffic. Honestly, a lot of times people are moseying around the village,
Yep.
and they're looking for another restaurant in the village, and they'll ask, and people say, "Why don't you go over to the Women's Exchange?" Or they'll just see it and investigate it if they're just visiting.
Right.
And all of a sudden they'll be, welcomed into the museum part, and then the gift shop, and then they'll look at our menu and say, maybe I'll stay and have some lunch here.
Right.
So
Sounds like it would be a great place to go for Christmas shopping if you're looking for something unique that you can't find in big box retailers.
definitely. I mean, from jewelry to candles to soaps to ceramics to pottery. It's a wide variety of different items that are for sale. I know the joke in my family is my husband says, just write a check to the exchange and leave the merchandise home. We don't need any more hand-painted wine glasses or more jewelry. And so, because I just I see something unique and I'm like, oh, I have to have it.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of unique.
Yeah.
I asked Barb Summers this question. How did you get involved with the exchange? Because you're originally from Long Island, which I love the accent and the attitude.
I try to.
No, it's good.
Thank you. I feel my story is pretty interesting. My parents moved to Seven Lakes in the late 80s. So I've been coming down here to visit them throughout the 90s, 2000s. And my mom used to take me to the Women's Exchange for lunch.
Okay.
And it was so different. I'm coming, at that time I was living in Chicago, so you're from these skyscraper buildings to this wonderful, cozy log cabin. And Joyce Reeling, who writes for The Pilot, back about 5 years ago, she wrote an article informing us all that the Women's Exchange might be closing.
Yep.
They were running out of funds.
Yep.
They needed new volunteers. A lot of the volunteers had aged out. So all of a sudden I said, oh, I can't let this happen. So I went right down with my checkbook in hand and said, what else can I do besides writing you a check to help sustain this? And they said, well, we need volunteers, especially waitresses, because our waitresses are aging out. I said, well, I never waitressed a day in my life.
I never heard that expression, aging out. People must say that about me behind my back.
Well, I'm trying to be politically correct. But I said, well, okay, I could probably learn how to waitress. It can't be that difficult.
Yeah.
So I started originally as a on-call, meaning just call me if you need me, if somebody calls in sick or anything, and if I'm available, I'll come down.
Yeah.
And then I started having so much fun, I said, well, why don't you just put me on the schedule? And I have been doing every Saturday that we're open if I'm in town, and I love it. The people that I have met, not just the women that work there, but the people that come in, and I love, as you'll notice, I like chatting, and
You're from New York.
Yes, really. And I engage with them, and you ask them where they're from, and you listen to, everybody's from somewhere, and you listen to their stories, and it's such a wonderful community of people, and I look forward to every Saturday work. I don't even want to say working there, volunteering there, because it's not working. And they know we're volunteers, so if I give you sweet tea instead of unsweet tea, they're fine with that.
Somehow the word sweet tea coming out of your mouth.
Oh,
Doesn't quite sound the same.
No.
But it's a new Southern accent. We're going to come back in the second set. We're speaking with the Sandhills Women's Exchange. I do want to ask you guys in the second set about the challenges of not just the demographic shifts since 2000, but the pandemic. This is All Things Moore County. We'll be right back. Welcome back to our second set of All Things Moore County. We're talking all about the Women's Exchange, the Sandhills Women's Exchange in Pinehurst, with the President, BARB Keating, and BARB SUMMERS, and Vice President BARB Keating. So tell me the challenge of the pandemic this year. What has that done to your business? And, you know, again, the last 10, 15 years, you've seen a big demographic shift in our age groups, and how has that affected the exchange?
Well, probably first the demographics, yeah, definitely, and for us too, because we are so volunteer driven. I mean, we have our chef Katrina, who's paid, and our managers that share a position, and everybody else is volunteer.
Right.
And so with that aging out, some just aren't able to participate as they did.
Right.
So obviously, we would love to see a lot of the young military wives that are coming into town. We're endeavoring to try to reach out to them. That is constantly a challenge. But some of them, like with our Breakfast with Santa event that we have coming up this weekend, that's a great way to get the young families in. And hopefully then from there they start to see, we are starting to see more of them come in for meals, but we would love to get some of them to volunteer, be it as a cashier at our gift shop or waitressing like Barb does. As far as the pandemic and COVID, we closed on March 14th and obviously did not reopen. Now, we're a seasonal business where we open up in September and then we take a winter break after close to Christmas time, and then we reopen early in February, and then stay open till May and take the summer off. And part of that is because we are so volunteer driven, people travel and go away. But when we closed on March 14th, you know, everybody thought, oh, this will be 2 or 3 weeks and we'll reopen. Did not happen. And so we were, by not being able to happen, of course, that changed income. Yeah. We had some large group events coming up. We did secure one of the PPPL loans for the cabin, and that did help us tie us over in the situation. But then with reopening, we had to focus on what are all the guidelines. I had a company come in and clean the cabin from top to bottom and that, and plus the protective, the masks, the plexiglass at the front counter, our Katrina being cautious and that. So it challenged us, and we had set a goal that we were going to reopen on September 9th after Labor Day, and we did. And it was exciting that we could meet that challenge. But what was better yet was some of our regulars were right there at the door, ready to come in to have lunch and shop, and they were excited that we were back up and running. Yeah.
Dispel the myth for me that the Sandhills Women's Exchange is just for women.
Not at all.
Not at all.
Not at all. No, even some of our artisans are men now. Okay. Our clientele or people that come in to dine, my husband is in a men's group, and once a month after their meeting, they all come over to the cabin. They love Katrina's chili, and there'll just be 6 or 8 or sometimes even 10 men just having lunch
Is that
and
right?
enjoying it. Yeah, and we see a lot of couples. So it is not just we have one gentleman who comes in by himself. He's widowed, and he comes in from Asheboro.
Maybe he thinks it's all women, and he was going to come in and just sort of connect with somebody.
Oh, we were thinking that, but he's just a sweet little old gentleman, and he comes every Thursday.
You
and
never know. You never know.
Yeah, well, it's a little too old for me. But no, it's not just a women's tea parlor. Okay. It is a wonderful cafe
Okay.
with one great kind of food.
Okay. And Pinehurst there is on, even with the pandemic, Pinehurst is on the upswing. The USGA coming into town. There's a lot of optimism around the village, and so you guys are potentially primed for more growth. You seem to be open in tandem with the tourist season as well, which is probably a very smart thing to do.
Correct.
Because you have a good relationship with the hotel.
Yeah, we do. And as Barb mentioned, like sometimes people be in the village shopping, they'll say, well, maybe a different place to shop or for lunch, they'll say, oh, you've got to go see the cabin and that, which is really works well for us, and vice versa. We send somebody might be looking for a particular place, and then we have people just kind of stop and wander about. Some people do think maybe we've just been a women's club,
Right.
and that's all we are, don't realize until they come in. And I will say, too, to add about the men, when the men come in, they are fascinated with that cabin, with the museum, and walking about, and they're just so, sometimes they ask more questions than some of the women do.
It's a unique building for sure, and yeah, I encourage people to go in if they haven't been in. It's not just a curiosity. You can just knock on the door and welcome you. Just make sure you're not 6'8".
Yes.
Then you
Right.
might have a problem. Are you always looking for volunteers?
We are.
Yeah.
Absolutely in that, because again, sometimes with the aging out, we went to a point of sale system a year ago, and because of that, many of our volunteers who were initially had been cashiers, that was a little too challenging for them, so they stepped away.
Sure.
But some who thought it would be a challenge have really taken to it, and it's been a great addition, all a part of the Modernize, going from when we were there in 1923 to where we are now. But yes, we're always looking for volunteers. There's lots of different ways to volunteer.
And on that note, we had a high school freshman from Pinecrest who came in and said that she needed to do some volunteer work. Was there anything that she could do?
How cool.
And she waitressed with me one Saturday, and I'll tell you, she was fabulous. She was quick, she was personable. So I would even encourage some young high school. We had a young gentleman who came and volunteered. He's a Pinecrest student too, I think. He did some of the gardening. He helped rake up the leaves, and he helped with Judy, who's our dirt gardener there.
Yeah.
So I would encourage also students to come and volunteer.
If people want to find out more information about the exchange, and if they can get in to visit this Christmas, this season would be great. You have a website?
We do. It's www.sandhillswe.org. We're a .org. And we also are out on Facebook. And a way we communicate, once you become a member, we have our constant contact newsletter, and that's constantly sending out what's coming up at the cabin, and also
Perfect.
trying to bring everybody up to date.
Well, we're going to put a podcast together for you, and hopefully
Thank
you can
you.
use that as well. I wish you guys the best of luck. The Sandhills Women's Exchange is truly an iconic property in the most vintage part of Pinehurst, and I encourage people, especially people who have moved here over the last 5 or 6 years, who might not know anything about the history, to stop in and visit.
Well, we would welcome them, and because we're a very welcoming group of ladies and men.
Thank you guys both for coming
Thank
in.
you. We
Thank you
appreciate
for
the
inviting
opportunity.
us.
Will, this is All Things Moore County. We'll be back in a minute. Welcome back to our third set of All Things Moore County. Dorothy, we're going to pivot from Pinehurst, and we're going to refocus on Southern Pines.
Okay.
But we're still going to keep an eye on December.
Okay.
Past guest has joined me today, artistic director Greta Zanstra from the Encore Theater in Southern Pines. They're about to introduce their third production this fall, which is in itself...
That's a feat.
yeah, that's a feat. 2 outdoor productions, and this one is going to be indoors.
That's correct.
Greta, you're like the Energizer Bunny. They can't. You keep going and going and going.
It's true.
You have an event coming up. Well, tell me real quick.
Yes.
The Encore Theater. Give a little background.
Yes, we are in downtown Southern Pines. This is our second year, and of course, last season was an unusual season, and this one has started out as an unusual season. COVID restrictions really enforced us to sort of pivot what we had been doing for the first few months of our existence. We do live shows. We also have dance classes and music lessons and art classes. We really are working to become a home for the arts in Moore County, all different sorts of arts. So we have a lot of stuff going on. Last night we were in rehearsal for different stuff, and we had dance classes and people taking piano lessons. It's kind of a fun little spot, but this year we've had to sort of rearrange how that goes and limit the number of people in our building at a time, have specific ways you're allowed to walk. We have to wear masks. So a lot of things have gone virtual.
Right.
But we are working to try to keep giving people that artistic outlet and the artistic experiences that I think are really helpful in a time when things feel a little scary or a little uncomfortable, to still have that outlet.
And you're doing a production called Christmas Florida.
That is right.
So I have a hard time with the two words together.
Yes.
So you're going to tell me about it, and you're also going to introduce Morgan Piner.
Absolutely.
Who is here with you and is going to be in the production. Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I think this originates from the fact that most organizations at Christmas time and the holidays, they do a big show, right? You put 40 people on stage, all the kids are in it. It's a big event, lots of audience members, and that's how holiday productions have really been built across the country, certainly across the world, really, for many decades. So there aren't a lot of productions available for a very small cast. Obviously, at this point, specifically when we're moving indoors, we did not want a big cast. That's not safe. So I was seeking one-person or two-person shows. Very difficult to find because it's not the mode that most operations have been for the last 50 years.
Right.
So I thought to myself, well, I'll just write one. And so I did. And the ideas just sort of kept rolling out of my mind. And Christmas, Florida is an actual town in Florida.
Is it really?
Yes, it's a real place.
Didn't
and
know
I did
that.
a bunch of research about it and I don't even exactly know when it arrived in my mind. It just sort of kept going. And every day I would sit down and just start writing and see what happens. So this story, really kind of came out of, it was a sort of limitation as a springboard of ingenuity, right? So we had to come up with something, and we did.
And it says adults only?
Yes. We've done a lot of stuff that's very family friendly. Our last show, Brothers Grimm's Spectaculathon, would be considered almost a kids show. While adults did enjoy it, it was really focused for younger audiences. And we have a lot of educational programming, so we thought it might be fun to have something a little more grown up. And so we say it's for naughty elves. And it's in no way like, there's no nudity, there's no violence, but there are some a little more adult, a little more risque conversation bits. So we think it might be a fun opportunity for people to come on dates or with their group of friends. It is the time when it's not necessarily safe to bring your whole family to every event, but people still, I think, are looking for something to do with their significant other or with their best friend. And so it's something that is appropriate for that kind of an audience.
Okay, you have two performances coming up, Friday and Saturday evening, the 11th and 12th of December at 9 p.m., and then a Sunday matinee at 2 p.m. Where is it going to be?
This is going to be at our normal address in Southern Pines, which is 160 East New Hampshire. So our performance space, we've just vastly reduced the number of people in there so that we can really space people out. We're selling 25 tickets for a house that seats 161.
25 tickets?
Mm-hmm. So we are going to be able to give everyone a lot of space and keep masks on. So we're hoping that is something that can feel safe to people.
So Morgan, good morning.
Good morning.
So you are the coquettish actress who is going to be in this.
Absolutely.
Adults
Coquettish. All right.
You like that word?
Yeah, I love that.
Okay. And if you're only going to have 25 people in the audience, you're going to have a very organic experience.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And this is going to be a one-woman show. And when Greta told me about this,
It's a one-woman show?
Yeah.
It's just Morgan.
Absolutely. So I get very excited about this. And I've worked with Greta before. And as an actor, when you hear this, you're going to be on stage and it's just going to be you talking, you go, Yes, a lot of people might get scared, but I'm like, oh, this is great because it's gonna be such an intimate experience with those people. And once again, this is for our naughty elves, but I think it still has that warm, fuzzy Christmas feel to it as well.
So you talk about the audience's imagination is going to have to come into play if it's a one-person show.
Yeah.
You're going to paint word pictures.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the fun thing, too. It's my job to create those pictures for the audience and bring them along. And because it's going to be one woman, there's not so much audience participation, but that more interaction. I can interact with them and break that fourth wall and possibly talk to that person there in the audience.
So what you might not have in terms of numbers in an audience, this is an opportunity for you to work your craft too.
Absolutely. And I'm going to say I am so thankful because like a lot of different industries, especially the arts industry, was hit very hard with the pandemic. And to be working right now is such a gift. So this is very exciting for me.
Yeah. Many years ago, I went to see at the Lucille Lortel Theater in New York, the original Steel Magnolias.
Oh, my God. That's
and
nice.
I saw it 9 times.
Oh, my gosh.
And there were no men in the off-Broadway production. It was only when they made it a movie did they bring the men into the movie.
Right.
So all the audience knew was what the women in the beauty salon spoke about.
Yes.
And you had to think a lot. In the movie, you didn't have to think so much. That's what's going to happen in Christmas, Florida?
Absolutely. And because of that, I get excited too as an actor. We are going to talk about other characters, but how do you do that as one person? So I'm going to stretch myself a little bit and add some voices, add some physical acting in there, and I think everybody will follow along.
How physically exhausting is it to be in a position of one person? How long is the play?
It's about an hour.
About an hour.
Oh my goodness! So you're completely exposed for an hour.
That is a great word, exposed. Greta and I were just talking about this. You don't think about it, but talking for an hour is exhausting.
Right.
Not only are you talking as yourself, you kind of feel like you have multiple personalities. You're skipping between characters. You're thinking of lines, all of that. Oh, did the audience just get what I was saying? Let me bring them along in this story. It's exhausting. There's definitely going to be some what we call vocal rest, talking for an hour and having a mask and being safe and cautious. Ooh, that's a workout in itself. You
will have to have a mask on even though you'll be 6 feet, 8 feet away from the audience?
We are thinking at this point, given the restrictions of the COVID-19 that's currently in place with our governor's orders, that she will be allowed to be maskless because she is the only person in her workspace.
Right.
And the closest audience member will be about 10 foot away.
Right.
If that changes, we're ready to adjust with it. But we think that is legal at this point.
And
keeping her as far from them as possible.
Yeah, you see on TV today with all the political press conferences and everything, the speaker is taking their mask off, but everyone is standing away.
Yes, and that was part of the impetus of having a one-person show. Or again, if we had a two-person one and we had people who were, already spending a lot of time together, so that person could be safe in their own workspace, maskless.
Morgan, is this your first time in Southern Pines?
It is not, but it's been a while. But this is definitely my first production with Encore, and I am not familiar with this area as much, but I'm very happy to be here.
It's a very cool town.
Tell me all the places, what I need to do.
It's really a cool town, and the people that go out and support things like this, they love Southern Pines. There's a synergy here.
I do feel there's a sense of community, definitely.
Oh my gosh, there really is. Are you from North Carolina originally?
I am. I'm from east of Raleigh, a little town called Wendell.
Near Garner?
Oh, sure. I'll take that. If you Raleigh and head 64 east, you run right into it.
Is that right? Yeah. All right. And you guys have worked together in the past?
We have, yes. Okay. I believe a couple years ago when I directed Clue the musical,
yes,
Morgan had a very large role in that. And you work with some people and it's fine. You work with other people and you think, I just want to make sure that experience happens again. And so I've been looking for the right job for Morgan for a couple years so that I could have the chance to work with her again. And this is the kind of job where I needed someone with you know, a lot of energy, but also some gravitas to fill the stage alone for an hour. And I thought, I know just the girl if she's available.
It actually sounds to me, like, Morgan, like this is actually an opportunity you're looking forward to, even though the challenge might be greater than if you were in a production with an ensemble.
Absolutely. I'm so excited. And when Greta told me about this opportunity, I think I took 2 seconds and said, yes, yep, that's what I'll be doing.
She said, I'll figure it out. Well, she had to get it, you know, she's got other jobs that she does in the world, but arranged to be here with us for a couple weeks.
Good for you. So the event is Friday and Saturday next week, the 11th and 12th, 9 p.m. showings.
Correct.
Tickets are $15.
Correct.
Crazy.
We also have a show if you like to have a good time, but you don't necessarily like to be out late at night. We have a Sunday at 4 p.m. actually. It says 2, but that is incorrect. 4
it's going to be at 4 p.m. on Sunday.
So that way, if people, you know, don't want to be out late at night, there's an option for that too.
All right.
And I do really think it's a fun way to have a little holiday spirit, a little grown-up holiday spirit with your friends.
Yeah, we have to work on Greta's energy.
It's a little
I'm
low.
growing concerned a little bit. We actually would look forward to catching up with you also in 2021.
We'd love to be here.
Because we'll see what the world throws our way.
We shall indeed.
And how the Encore Theater will pivot and make a positive out of what a lot of people think is not a positive, but you have a way to do that, I think.
We're trying.
The Encore Theater, the production is Christmas, Florida. The one-woman show is featuring Morgan Piner. Sounds like a great, timely event and socially conscious at the same time.
Indeed.
Wish you guys good luck.
Thank you.
Morgan,
Thank you so much.
pleasure to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Greta, good luck. We'll see you soon.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening. This is All Things Moore County.